Ladies
Uh,
and gentlemen,
what do I do?
just hang on. Ladies and gentlemen, fasten your seatbelts, hold on tight. You're in for one crazy, epically amazing, and super awesome ride tonight on the Josh Nolan and Oliver Schultz Full Throttle Racing Show, #1 on YouTube. Tonight we have with us racing superstar Kane Kobosch. Welcome to
Hi.
the show, Mr. Kane.
Hi.
So, Kane, let's kick things off. How did your racing career begin?
So when I was about maybe 3 or 4, I raced these cars called Power Wheels and Page at this track called Cotton Bowl. And so I raced it a few and I won hundreds of races. And so one of my dad's friends, I don't remember his name, he invited us to this track. And so we passed by the track a few times. And so we thought it was abandoned because they don't mow the grass unless it's a race day. So we went over there, we watched some races, and then we met this guy, Chris, and then we talked. And then I got to ride in one of his kids' cars. And so I put all of his kids' racing suit on, and then I drove the car around a few laps, and that's how I got started.
Okay. So, Oliver, you have any questions for Mr. Kane to kick things off?
I definitely do. So, your kind of my first question is, what is your racing number, and how did you kind of come along with kind of picking that number?
So my racing number is 512.
And then how'd you kind of come along with picking that?
So my dad's friend AJ, he runs a ice stock, and his number back in the days was 52, but now he moved it to 512.
Cool. So then kind of another question for you here. How where would you see yourself with your racing career and everything? Where would you see yourself in like a year or two? Where would you see yourself with your racing career?
Next year, I would see myself running a mini sprint.
Cool. Josh, you got any questions?
Sure. Mr. Kane Kobosch. Are you there, Kane?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Kane. So here's my question, one of my questions for you. Who do you have for sponsors on your race car?
My dad and Myers Elgin Sausage. That's it.
Okay, are you still looking for sponsors with your racing team?
Yes.
Okay, if there's anybody going to be out here watching this racing show with me and Kane Kobosch, and you want to help him out, reach out to Kane and his racing team because they'd appreciate the sponsorship on their race car as Kane gets further into his racing career. So, Kane, I know Oliver talked about what your 1 and 2 year plan is. So, what's your 5 year plan with racing?
My 5 year plan would be, huh, I don't, maybe I'll probably still be running, I'll probably run a dwarf car.
Okay. So, Kane, what is your 10 year plan with racing then? Where do you want to be at in 10 years?
Running a sprint car.
Okay, okay. So,
Hold on.
Oliver, okay.
This thing is messing up.
All right. So kind of another question for you. So what would you say is like your like I'm trying to find that word. What would you say is like the driver that you look up to? That is like it doesn't have to be a race car driver, but just like a person that you look up to.
Uh, Mostly the person that I look up to is basically my dad.
Cool. I can definitely relate to that, but um who would you say is like the person that kind of like is it your dad or is it you that kind of like always works on the car and stuff like that?
Mostly always my dad.
Cool. So do you have any like stories or anything that you have from your racing career?
Uh, so actually, can you see all the things in the back?
Yup.
So do you see the big shack in the back? So
Mhm.
that shack, actually, that was from one of the biggest Power Wheels races, and so the story behind that is, so I ran the first race, I got first, and then on my second race, I ran and I got like a foot from the finish line. And then my motors, they just went out.
Yeah. So do you have so what would you say is one of the things that kind of gets you ready right before your race? Like, do you have any kind of like songs or anything like that that just kind of gets you ready for the
Uh,
race?
Not really, but my dad always prays before the race. That's the main thing.
Cool, and I can definitely relate to that. I have a Bible verse in my car. Whenever I have it right on my right side driver door, so it's a pretty cool thing to do. But Josh, I'm gonna kind of hand the thing off to you. You got any questions?
Yes, yes, I do, Oliver. So Kane, so Kane, when you're at the racetrack, what is your go-to food at the racetrack?
My go-to food at the racetrack is mostly nothing.
Okay, okay, so you're not much of an eater at the racetrack. Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. So Kane, when you're away from the racetrack, what's your favorite go-to restaurant?
My favorite go-to restaurant is, it's actually here in Elgin. It's Myers Hogan Sausage, one of my sponsors again.
Okay, so Kane, when you're at home, what's your favorite home cooked meal that your family makes for you?
Chicken.
Chicken. Okay, okay. So Kane, what do you like to do for fun away from the racetrack?
What I like to do for fun is drive my RC car.
Okay, very cool, very cool. Okay, Oliver, you got any more? You got some questions?
Yep. So, what would you say is kind of one thing that you've learned? I know you're still pretty young, but what would you say is one thing that you've kind of learned through like from racing?
Something that I kind of learned at racing is, so basically, is not to drive dirty. Because one time I was in I don't remember where it was. So there was this kid coming. I was right here in the turns, and then he got on under my bumper, and then it popped my car up on two wheels, and then I drove it all the way through the turn.
Cool. So, what would you say is one thing that you do when like let's say it's in between heat races or it's kind of like raining? What is one thing that you kind of do to do during that time?
Uh, I mostly just play my NASCARs and do all that stuff and sprint cars.
Cool. Trying to think of another question. What would you say is one of your favorite? I know you kind of brought up the RC car or whatnot, but what would you say is one of kind of your hobbies outside of racing or sports?
Uh, my favorite sport is actually soccer and football.
Cool. I'm a big football person as well. Um, so Josh, you got any questions?
Yes, I do. So Kane, what do your school friends think of you being a race car driver?
They really like it.
Okay, so Kane, who are some of your friends at the racetrack?
So some of my friends, so I have Chase, Dylan, Tegan, uh that's all I can think of right now.
Okay, so Kane, I know a lot of race car drivers have racing nicknames. Do you have a racing nickname that they call you at the racetrack?
Raisin Cane.
Raisin Kane. Okay, okay, okay. I get you. I get you. You have any other questions, Oliver?
Just kind of trying to think of one. What would you say? Do you have any people that you would kind of like to thank for kind of giving you the opportunity to race?
I would probably thank my dad, AJ, and most all my friends.
Cool. So is there anything that kind of like um like is there anything that kind of well, is there anything that you have in like the trailer or something like that that you kind of just kind of keep along with your racing career that I don't know, you just kind of like I know I've got my book that I kind of keep all my like my wristbands and everything in. Do you have anything that kind of you keep kind of keep history of your races?
So we actually have this bike rack. So we have this bike rack that we put our bikes on. It holds three bikes, and then we just put them in. And then, but we don't really use it that much, but we only put them on that sometimes.
Cool. So Josh, you got any questions?
Yeah, I do. Mr. Kane. Mr. Kane.
Okay.
So, Mr. Kane, do you have any advice out there for the kids coming up in the racing world?
So my advice is so when you first start in your training, if we're still doing it next year, my dad would actually be training. And so I would say don't drive dirty. And also I would say in the first class, drive about a foot from the wall and always go down to the turtles.
So, Kane, he switched back. Okay. So, Kane, Kane, okay? Do you have any racing? Do you have a racing page that the racing fans can follow you on?
Just follow my dad on Facebook.
Okay. So go follow Keith Kobosch on your Facebook. Definitely. So, Kane, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do something pretty spectacular. You ready for this?
Yeah.
We're going to turn the microphone over to you. You can ask us some questions.
So my main question is, do you race a car?
I don't, but Oliver does.
Okay.
I race IMCA Sport Mods, which is kind of the Wisconsin like B mod class around here.
I like those cars on dirt.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, you got any other questions?
Uh, that's mostly it.
Okay, no problem.
So, Kane, thank you for being on the racing show with us tonight.
Okay.
So, Kane, like I said, thank you very much for being on the racing show with us tonight. Before I let you go, one last question for you. Who is your favorite race car driver?
My favorite race car driver is actually AJ.
Okay. Okay. One last question, Kane. You know, you talked about football, you talked about soccer. We're going to go there. Who's your favorite NFL football team?
Uh, I don't really watch it. I don't really know.
Okay, that's fine, that's fine. So, with that being said, Kane, thank you for being on our racing show tonight, talking to us about your racing career, getting to know you a little bit better. So, Kane, definitely thank you very much. Oliver, would you like to thank Kane also?
Yep, thank you, Kim, for being on the show, and it definitely it helps us to have drivers like you, kind of help us grow the show.
Okay.
So, Kane, with that being said, I'll have you step out. We'll call you in just a little bit to thank you in person. Let's do that, okay?
Okay. Bye.
I'll wait for you to press exit there on your phone there.
You just gotta tap your screen, then there should be like a thing on the top right corner.
So, Oliver, do you have any racing news stuff that you would like to share with us?
Not really, just kind of still working on putting together a sport mod for me. I really don't have any sports going on right now, so um
So, Oliver, did you hear about that monster wreck yesterday down at Charlotte, the dirt World Finals for the World of Outlaws? Zeb Wise took one heck of a wild ride, and I haven't heard much more about it as if he had gotten hurt or anything. But that was one scary ride. He was going into 3 and 4, and touched somebody's wheel and went flipping. And then when he flipped, his throttle got stuck too, and he did like 4 or 5 like circles with the throttle stuck. And I was just like, whoa.
yeah, definitely not a good thing to see, and it's a good thing that they obviously, if they've done the studies and everything where drivers can like step out one of those wrecks and be mostly all right. I'm kind of bummed. I was planning on watching the World Outlaws finals, but my Dirt Vision kind of bugged out, so I couldn't watch it. But yeah, it's always kind of sad to not sad, but it's just kind of it's a bummer to hear something like that happen.
So, Oliver, I know you're on here tonight. I think, as we go into the weekend, we need to kind of wish somebody well wishes on their retirement. NASCAR's final weekend is this weekend. We need to kind of wish Kevin Harvick well wishes on his retirement. So, well wishes to you, Kevin Harvick, and your racing team. You've had an awesome career. I'll tell you what, enjoy your retirement there.
Yeah, and enjoy your retirement, Kevin. And Josh just kind of had a question for you. So I know you were talking about that radio, where you're going to be on that radio station. How'd that end up going?
That went very well, Oliver. That is going to get aired next week on the radio station. So once that comes out and gets shipped over to me, I'll tag you in it. Like I said, I did talk a little bit about you in there, about how you came on board, that type of thing there. So, like I said, I did mention you on that racing show. So, yes, on the radio show. So, yes, definitely. Yes, yes.
Cool. So
Yeah,
yeah, just kind of rounding off this show. We can kind of name out our sponsors and then
sure. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Dirt Track Race Cars and Company. Go hit up dirttrackracecars.com for all your racing diecast needs. They, like I've told you many times, they've got some sick looking 1/64th scale cars out. They've got 3 cars that Doug Wolfgang drove in his career: the 8D car, the 8 car, the 29 Weichert car from '85 in 1/64th scale. They also have the 47 of Daniel the Dude Lasowski that he drove in 1994, the Casey's General Store Gil Sonner car, and they also have the 1 Nance Sammy Swindell car. Definitely go snag them up. Definitely got some really awesome stuff possibly coming out down the line from that company as far as diecast wise. Also, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to thank Manning Motorsports and Brody Manning for helping out with this racing show, and New England Hemophilia Association / Walking with Waylon. And if you guys would like to sponsor our racing show or be on our racing show, feel free to email us at jjnolan151@gmail.com, or you can call or text us at 712-209-7138. But with that being said, I would like to thank our racing shit guest, Kane Kobosch. And I'll tell you what, to say good night tonight, we're going to go like this here. Good night from Josh Nolan
Oliver Schultz.
and the Josh Nolan and Oliver Schultz Full Throttle Racing Show, #1 on YouTube. So have a good night and be safe this weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Recording.